Hi, this is Silvia Kratzer, and today we are going to talk about how to select the correct neighborhood for you. Because it is not just an investment or a prudent decision, it is actually also a way of identity, of shaping and creating your identity, of transformation, perhaps much more so than a financial investment. It is an investment in your identity and not just your lifestyle. It's an investment in your lifestyle, but beyond that, an investment in your identity. Let me tell you a story. When I first moved from Los Angeles to Miami, I wasn't that familiar with all the different neighborhoods. And I relied on my local realtor who recommended Coral Gables. A good advice, a very good suggestion, and he was correct in many ways. However, when I arrived in Coral Gables, I had invested in a house there. It was clean, it was beautiful, but it didn't fit my identity. And it didn't fit, more importantly, who I was becoming. See, when we move, oftentimes there's a transformation, whether it's a job advancement, or it's downsizing, or it's a bigger family, or we would like to have a neighborhood that fits us more. It's a transformation of our identity. Ultimately, I settled in Coconut Grove, which so far fits me as a glove. But how do you know ahead of time? Let me compare for you two neighborhoods, Coral Gables and Coconut Grove here in Miami. And as we do so, perhaps that also gets you thinking about where to invest in a property, whether it's Coral Gables, Coconut Grove, or elsewhere, and to consider your identity, your transformation as a pivotal element in your decision. And while our move often indicates or heralds a transformation in our identity, it can also mean an unwanted transformation. I was transferred to Miami with job, and they ended up here in Coconut Grove, but they had lived in a beautiful Orange County neighborhood in California, backing into wildlife reserves, into nature where they could immediately go hiking. And they want to sell now after investing years of money and precious resources in their home here because they miss their old lifestyle. Here are my 5 holy grail questions to consider to determine your ideal neighborhood that fits your identity and your lifestyle. The first holy grail relocation question is, do I prefer energy or tranquility? Do I like cafes, thriving bars, nightlife, people watching, or do I prefer a quiet residential street with plenty of nature and perhaps even the ability to go hiking or going for long walks and having big backyards rather than having a bustling city life or bustling. Even here in Coconut Grove, there is a Coco Walk. So some areas in Coconut Grove fit the city lifestyle, the village lifestyle, the hip boho village lifestyle, while other areas are very tranquil and fit a lifestyle that loves the closeness of nature over people. The second holy grail question is, do you like walkability or don't you mind if it's a little remote and you have to take a car? See, I lived in Los Angeles and taking a car was a matter of fact. To me, it didn't matter much and still doesn't if I have to drive. However, to some it is very important to have walkable access to all the amenities, gyms, restaurants, shopping, grocery, and being in walking distance of all what your heart desires. Others don't mind taking Uber, let's say, or walking And depending on who you are or what your previous lifestyle was, like Los Angeles, it's a matter of fact that you drive and you don't mind. There's of course here also a lot of people drive the little golf carts around, which is so cute. You save on money and gas, parking spots are easy to find, and you can easily navigate around to get to Coco Walk, your favorite neighborhood cafes, or drop your kids off to their soccer lessons. The third Holy Grail question is related but quite different. Do you prefer community or privacy? For instance, in Coral Gables, there was a sense of community, but it seemed not quite the community I would not naturally seek out. More like a more relaxed, older lifestyle that would perhaps talk about the rose gardens. And so that was the community that was very much alive and thriving in Coral Gables, even though it may have been more remote from shopping other than the golf course. But and the other thing, the community centered about golf. If that is your identity and your preference, then of course Coral Gables location might be ideal to find a community to connect with the people who share and love your lifestyle and your identity. If you like a little bit more privacy, Coconut Grove might be your ticket, because here the neighbors are tending to be rather much for themselves. They connect perhaps over a lost cat or dogs. It's more oriented towards going for walks with your pet, but typically people are very private and like it that way, because privacy is one of the prime criteria for selecting the neighborhood. They may have community elsewhere, private clubs or yacht clubs here in the marina, but not directly in their neighborhood, and high fences, thick hedges make sure that everyone keeps their privacy. The fourth Holy Grail questions for selecting your ideal neighborhood is, ask yourself, what does your ideal Sunday look like? Barbecue with your family, or having a party around the pool, or shopping, people watching, outdoor cafes, brunches, farmers market, or a beach walk, playing golf at your neighborhood golf club, or going shopping with your besties and having a Bellini cocktail afterwards. And finally, the fifth Holy Grail question is, ask yourself, which version of myself do I want to become? The best neighborhood isn't necessarily where you live in today. It is the place that supports the life you want to create. And as a former professor at the university and coach, lifestyle coach, I find that almost nothing is as important to our identity, to our transformation, as the place we live in, the surroundings, the neighborhoods, the environment we create for ourselves. You have heard, you become the 5 people you most surround yourself with. Well, almost more importantly, you become the neighborhood that you decide to live in. Another example, vision boards. Many of us create vision boards, maybe on New Year's Eve or other times, and have found that what we have visually in front of us impacts our unconscious, and we unconsciously or not create that in our life. Now think of your home as a 3-dimensional vision board. Everything that you're surrounding yourself with is a constant reminder, an immersion in who you are, and most importantly, who you want to become and who you are becoming. It is probably the most fun transformation tool that you have complete control over. So the most costly mistake is not necessarily buying the wrong house, but buying in the wrong neighborhood that does not support who you are and it costs you ultimately much more money just even thinking of commuting to areas that do support who you are, and feeling unpleasant, feeling out of place in the neighborhood you are in. The biggest mistake for me wasn't buying the wrong house or buying a wrong investment. It was buying in a neighborhood that didn't support who I was and was becoming. And that ultimately is more costly when you then have to sell or rent out than buying in the correct neighborhood right away and making a financial decision that fits your lifestyle. As a realtor, I find too few realtors really pay attention to that and advise their clients correctly.